The video lasts 8 seconds. 8 seconds that crack the internet in half. A little girl stands on a sidewalk in downtown Denver, wearing a pink dress that catches the morning sun like crushed roses. Her hair is pulled back with a bow that doesn't match. Her shoes are scuffed. In her small hands, she holds a floral pouch, the kind grandmothers sew from fabric scraps. Across from her, a man kneels. Black suit, sharp jaw, tattoos crawling up his neck like old secrets he can't scrub off. His hands rest on his knees, palms open, like he's afraid to move too fast. His eyes, dark, unblinking, lock onto hers with the kind of focus that makes the world go silent. The camera shakes. Whoever's filming doesn't know what they're capturing yet. The girl's voice is barely a whisper, but it punches through the noise of traffic, the hum of the city, the buzz of a streetlight flickering overhead. If I pay, can you scare my monsters? The man doesn't blink, doesn't breathe. For a moment, he looks like someone just reached into his chest and squeezed. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. The clip ends there. No context, no explanation. Just a child offering money to a stranger and a man who looks like he's been shattered by a question he wasn't ready to hear. Within hours, the video has 30 million views. Comment sections explode. People argue. People cry. People demand answers. Who is this man? What did she mean by monsters? Why does he look like he's seen a ghost? But what the world doesn't know, what the shaky phone camera didn't catch, is what happened before the little girl walked up to him. What happened the night before, when her stepfather came home smelling like whiskey and rage. What happened 2 years ago, when that same man stole money from the wrong people. What happened when the little girl stood at her bedroom window, watching the man in the black suit buy flowers from her mother's shop every single morning, and thought to herself, he looks like someone who's fought monsters before. The video doesn't show any of that. It just shows the moment a 6-year-old girl named Zariah Monroe decided that imaginary monsters weren't enough anymore. That she needed someone real, someone dangerous, someone who understood what it's like to be afraid in your own home. And the man kneeling in front of her, Luca Vero, a name whispered in courtrooms and back alleys, a man who controls half the city without ever raising his voice, recognizes something in her eyes that he thought he'd buried decades ago. Fear that doesn't cry. Fear that plans. Fear that waits. He takes the floral pouch from her hands like it's made of glass. His fingers tremble, just barely, but enough. Who hurt you, he asks. She doesn't answer. She doesn't need to, because the way she looks at him, steady, unflinching, too old for 6 years on this planet, tells him everything. Someone hurt her. Someone she can't fight. Someone who walks through the front door every night and makes her mother go quiet. Luca Vero has killed men for less. But this is different, because the little girl standing in front of him isn't asking him to hurt someone. She's asking him to scare someone. And that's so much worse. What would you do if a child handed you money and asked you to protect them from something you couldn't see? Zariah Monroe learned early that crying made things worse. Not because anyone told her. She just noticed. The louder she got, the angrier he became. The quieter she stayed, the faster it ended. So she stopped crying in public, stopped flinching when doors slammed, stopped asking her mother why her hands shook when wrapping bouquets at the flower shop. Instead, she watched. She noticed which floorboards creaked, which closet doors didn't lock, which neighbors turned their music up when voices got loud next door. She learned to read a room the way some kids learn to read books. And she learned that monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they wear clean shirts. Sometimes they smile at strangers. Sometimes they smell like cologne and coffee and act like everything's fine until the door closes and the mask slips off. Her stepfather, Calder Briggs, was the kind of man who shook hands with the mailman and told jokes at the grocery store. He wore expensive watches, drove a car that didn't match his job, always had cash in his pockets, but never explained where it came from. Her mother, Tess Monroe, ran a flower shop 3 blocks from their apartment. She had gentle hands and tired eyes. She hummed while she worked. She braided Zariah's hair every morning. She pretended not to notice when Calder came home late, when his knuckles were bruised when the smell of someone else's perfume clung to his jacket. Zariah pretended not to notice too. But kids see everything. They just don't always know what to call it. So Zariah gave it names. She called the tension in the apartment the heavy air. She called Calder's mood swings the storm clouds. She called the nights when her mother locked herself in the bathroom the quiet times. And when Calder's voice got too loud, when his footsteps got too heavy, when the walls felt like they were closing in, she told herself it was just monsters. Imaginary ones, the kind that disappeared when you close your eyes. Except they didn't disappear. They got worse. One night, she drew a picture of a dragon with sharp teeth and angry eyes. She taped it to her bedroom wall and told herself that was the monster, not the man in the living room, not the sound of glass breaking, not her mother's voice saying, "I'm fine, baby, go back to bed." But imaginary monsters don't leave bruises. They don't make your mother wear long sleeves in summer. They don't teach you to walk on your toes so the floor doesn't creak. Real monsters do. And Zariah needed someone who knew how to fight real ones. Someone who looked dangerous enough that even monsters would be scared. Someone like the man who came to her mother's flower shop every morning at exactly 8. 15, bought white gardenias without saying much, and left before anyone could ask his name. She didn't know who he was, but she knew he was different, because when he looked at her mother, his eyes went soft. And when he looked at Calder, the one time Calder showed up at the shop unannounced, his eyes went cold. Zariah stood at the window that day, watching the way Calder's smile faltered, watching the way the man in the black suit didn't move, didn't blink, didn't break eye contact, watching the way Calder left faster than he came. And she thought, he's fought monsters before, but would he fight hers? Luca Vero didn't look like someone who bought flowers. He looked like someone who made people disappear. Tall, sharp-dressed, tattoos snaking up his neck and disappearing under his collar like they were trying to escape. His suits were tailored. His shoes were polished. His car was black and sleek and didn't have a single scratch. People crossed the street when they saw him coming. Dan owners nodded but didn't make small talk. Cops pretended not to notice him. Because Luca Vero wasn't just a man. He was a reputation. They called him the gentleman ghost. Not because he was polite, though he never raised his voice, never made a scene, never lost his temper in public, but because he moved through the city like smoke. You felt him before you saw him. You knew he was there even when he wasn't. He owned buildings no one could trace. He had connections in places people didn't talk about. He solved problems that didn't have legal solutions. And he did it all without ever getting his hands visibly dirty. But every morning at 8:15, he walked into Tessman Rose flower shop and bought white gardenias. Always white, always gardenias, never anything else. Tess wrapped them carefully the way she wrapped everything, with ribbon and tissue paper and a small card she never wrote on. She didn't ask questions, didn't make conversation beyond good morning and have a nice day. But Luca always left a tip. Always cash, always more than the flowers cost. And he always looked at her like she was something fragile he didn't want to break. What Tess didn't know, what no one knew, was that Luca bought those flowers for his mother. Not his living mother, his dead one. Every morning, he drove to the cemetery on the east side of the city, placed the gardenias on her grave, and stood there in silence for exactly 5 minutes. No prayers, no words, just silence. Because his mother never got to hear him apologize, never got to see him become someone who protected people instead of hurting them, never got to know that the little boy who watched his father's fists fly finally grew up and made sure no one else's father could do the same. Luca's childhood was a blueprint for violence. A father who drank, a mother who stayed, a house where love and fear lived in the same breath. He learned early that power wasn't about being the loudest. It was about being the coldest. So he became cold, calculated, untouchable. But every morning, when he placed those flowers on his mother's grave, he let himself feel something. Regret, guilt, the weight of being too late. And then he locked it away again. Until the day a 6-year-old girl with a floral pouch and 2 old eyes stood in front of him and asked a question that ripped every lock open. "If I pay, can you scare my monsters?" In that moment, Luca wasn't standing on a sunny Denver sidewalk. He was 10 years old again, standing in a hallway, watching his mother press foundation over a bruise, watching her smile and say, "I'm fine, baby," watching her lie. And he remembered the question he never got to ask: can someone scare my monster? But no one ever did. The morning Zariah decided to ask him, the sky was the color of honey. Warm, bright, the kind of morning that made people smile for no reason. She woke up early, got dressed by herself, picked the pink dress because it had pockets, tied her shoes twice to make sure they wouldn't come undone. Her mother was already at the shop, setting up the display outside, buckets of tulips and daisies and roses arranged like a painting. Zariah grabbed the floral pouch from under her bed. Inside, $3 in coins, one crumpled $5 bill, 2 quarters she found under the couch, a dime her teacher gave her for reading the most books in class, $8.30. She didn't know if that was enough, but it was all she had. She walked the 3 blocks to the flower shop, clutching the pouch like it might disappear if she let go. She waited. At exactly 8:15, the black car pulled up. Luca stepped out, adjusting his cufflinks, his expression unreadable. He walked toward the shop. Zariah stepped in front of him. He stopped, looked down, saw her standing there, small and determined, holding the pouch out like an offering. "Morning," he said quietly. His voice was deeper than she expected. Softer too. "This is for you," she said. He crouched down slowly, like he was approaching something wild that might run. "What's this for?" Zariah swallowed hard. Her hand shook. She gripped the pouch tighter. "If I pay," her voice cracked. She forced the words out. "Can you scare my monsters?" Luca's breath caught. For a moment, he didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. He just stared at her, and in her eyes, he saw himself. A child who learned too early that the world wasn't safe. A child who couldn't cry for help because crying made it worse. A child who needed someone, anyone, to step in and make the monster stop. His mother's face flashed in his mind. Her bruises, her excuses, her silence. And suddenly, he wasn't in Denver anymore. He was 10 years old, standing in his childhood kitchen, watching his father's shadow stretch across the wall like a threat, wishing anyone would walk through that door and make it stop. But no one ever did. Luca blinked. The memory faded, but the little girl in front of him didn't. He reached out slowly and took the pouch from her hands. "Who hurt you?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of every question he never got to ask. Zariah didn't answer. She just looked at him, and in that silence, Luca understood everything. Because some questions don't need words. Calder Briggs was good at 2 things: lying and counting money. He worked as an accountant. At least that's what he told people. What he really did was move numbers around for people who didn't want those numbers traced. Dirty money, clean books, that was his specialty. He worked for men who wore expensive suits and had quiet conversations in basements. Men who didn't ask twice. Men who made problems disappear. And for years, Calder thought he was smarter than all of them. He skimmed a little here, adjusted a decimal there, pocketed cash that no one would miss. Or so he thought. 2 years ago, he made a mistake. He stole from the wrong man. Luca Vero. It wasn't much, $20,000, buried in a ledger no one was supposed to check. Calder figured it would go unnoticed. Figured Luca had bigger things to worry about. He figured wrong. Luca noticed. He always noticed, but he didn't react. Didn't confront Calder. Didn't send anyone to his door. Didn't even mention it. Because Luca didn't believe in rushing. He believed in waiting, watching, letting people think they got away with it. And then, when the moment was right, when they were comfortable, when they thought they were safe, he struck. But Luca had rules. One of them never involved children. He'd seen too many kids caught in crossfire, too many families torn apart, because someone wanted revenge more than they wanted peace. So he waited for the right moment, a moment that didn't put anyone innocent in danger, a moment that felt clean. But then a 6-year-old girl in a pink dress walked up to him and asked him to scare her monsters. And Luca realized something. The right moment wasn't coming. It was already here, because the man who stole from him. Tess Monroe's hands freeze mid-stem when she sees them. Her daughter, sitting on the curb. Next to him, The scissors slip from her fingers and clatter against the metal table. A customer glances up, startled, but Tess doesn't notice. She's already moving. Her shoes slap against the pavement. Her apron flaps behind her like a flag of panic. Zariah. Her voice cracks. "Sweetheart, come here." But Zariah doesn't move. She's looking at Luca like he's the only person in the world who understands. And that terrifies Tess more than anything. Because Luca Vero doesn't talk to children. He doesn't kneel on sidewalks. He doesn't hold floral pouches like they're made of something precious. Unless something's wrong. Unless he knows. Tess reaches them, breathless, her chest tight. She grabs Zariah's hand, not rough but firm. Protective. "Come help me inside, baby." Zariah stands, but she doesn't let go of Luca's gaze. Tess pulls gently. "Now, Zariah." Luca rises slowly. Doesn't rush. Doesn't break eye contact with Tess. "Tess." One word, but the way he says it makes her spine go rigid. It's not a greeting. It's a question. An accusation. A warning. Her mouth opens. Closes. She forces a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. She has a big imagination. Kids, you know, they say things. "Tess." He says it again. Quieter this time. Heavier. She stops talking. Luca's eyes move to Zariah, then back to Tess. Imagination doesn't give a child that look. Tess's breath stutters. Her hand tightens around Zariah's. "I don't know what she told you, but she didn't tell me anything." Luca's voice is calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes before storms. "She asked me a question, and the way she asked it, he doesn't finish. He doesn't need to." Tessa's eyes fill. She blinks fast, trying to keep them from spilling over. Zariah leans into her mother's side. And that small movement, that instinct to protect the person who can't protect herself, tells Luca everything he needs to know. This isn't just about Zariah. It's about both of them. Tess swallows hard. "We're fine. Really. I promise." But her voice shakes. Her hands shake. Her whole body shakes. And Luca recognizes it. The shake of someone who's been holding fear for so long, it's become part of their bones. He takes a step closer. Not threatening. Just present. "Who hurt you?" he asks again. Tessa's face crumbles. Just for a second. Then she rebuilds it. "No one. We're fine." "Tess." "We're fine." But Luca sees the truth. In a way she won't meet his eyes. In the way her sleeves are too long for summer. In a way Zariah stands too still, too quiet, like she's learned that moving makes things worse. He nods slowly. Doesn't push. But he doesn't leave either. "If you need anything," he says quietly, "you know where to find me." Tess nods. Pulls Zariah toward the shop. Doesn't look back. But Luca watches them disappear through the door. And that night, he doesn't go home. He parks across the street, turns off the engine, and waits. Because monsters don't wait for permission to strike. Calder comes home at 11:47 p.m. Luca watches from the car, engine cold, windows cracked just enough to hear. Calder's footsteps are uneven. His tie is loose. His shirt is untucked. He's on the phone, voice sharp, frustrated. "I don't care what he said. The numbers are clean. They don't know anything." He fumbles with his keys, drops them, swears. No, I covered it. I'm telling you, they won't find out." He finally gets the door open and disappears inside. Luca doesn't move, just listens. Minutes pass. Then the shouting starts. Muffled at first, then louder. Calder's voice. Tessa's voice. Zariah's silence. Luca's jaw tightens. His fingers drum once against the steering wheel. Then he gets out of the car. The next morning, Calder walks into the flower shop like nothing happened. Tess is at the counter, wrapping a bouquet for an older woman. Her hands move fast, too fast, like she's trying to stay busy so she doesn't have to think. Calder leans against the doorframe, arms crossed, smile lazy. "Morning, babe." Tess doesn't look up. "Morning. You gonna be done soon? I need you to sign something. I'm with a customer." "Yeah, I can see that." His tone shifts, just slightly, just enough. "But I need you to sign it now." The older woman glances between them, sensing tension but not understanding it. Tess ties the ribbon, hands the bouquet over with a forced smile. "Thank you. Have a lovely day." The woman nods and leaves quickly. The second the door closes, Calder's hand wraps around Tess's wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, but hard enough to control. I said now. Tess's breath hitches. Calder, please. Don't make me ask again. Zariah appears from the back room, carrying a watering can that's too heavy for her. She sees his hand, sees her mother's face, drops the can. Water spills across the floor. Calder's head snaps toward her. What did I say about being careful? Zariah doesn't answer. She just stares, and then the door opens. Lucas steps inside. The air changes, like someone flipped a switch and all the oxygen got sucked out of the room. Calder's grip loosens. Tess pulls her wrist back slowly. Zariah stands frozen, water pooling around her shoes. Luca doesn't say anything at first. He just looks at Calder. And Calder, for the first time in years, feels small. Morning, Lucas says quietly. Calder forces a smile. Morning. Just handling some business. I can see that. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Dangerous. Calder clears his throat. Well, I should get going. Tess, we'll talk later. He moves toward the door. Luca doesn't step aside. You stole from me, Lucas says. Calder's face goes white. I what? No, I didn't. 2 years ago, 20,000. You thought I wouldn't notice. Calder's mouth opens, closes, opens again. I can explain. You hurt them, Luca continues. Calder looks at Tess. She never said anything. She didn't have to. Luca's eyes shift to Zariah. She paid me to scare her monsters. Calder's knees buckle slightly. The shop is silent. That's not. She's dramatic. She makes things up. Luca takes one step forward. Just one. But it feels like a wall closing in. If she were dramatic, Lucas says, voice soft as a blade, I'd like her more. And Calder realizes too late. The most dangerous man in the room isn't him anymore. Luca reaches into his jacket. Calder flinches. But Luca doesn't pull out a weapon. He pulls out a folded piece of paper. Holds it out. Calder stares at it like it might explode. Take it, Lucas says. Calder's hand shakes as he unfolds it. His face drains of color. Because it's not just a piece of paper. It's a ledger. A full breakdown of every dollar he stole. Every transaction he buried. Every name he thought he hid. Names of people who don't forgive. Names of people who don't ask twice. Names of people who make problems disappear. How did you? I notice everything, Lucas says. I just don't react right away. Calder's legs give out. He sits hard on the floor, paper trembling in his hands. I can fix this. I can pay it back. I swear. You'll leave Denver tonight. Calder looks up, eyes wide. What? Alone. No luggage. No phone calls. No goodbyes. You can't. You will never contact them again. You will never look at that child again. You will never say their names again. Calder's voice cracks. This is my home. Not anymore. Luca crouches down. I level. Or, he says quietly, I'll give this to the people you stole from. The people you owe. The people who are already looking for you. Calder's breath comes in short gasps. And if you ever think about coming back, Luca's voice drops to a whisper. The monsters you made her fear will seem gentle next to me. Calder nods so fast his neck cracks. Do you understand? Yes. Yes. I understand. Good. Lucas stands. Walks to the door. Stops. Looks back at Tess, who's pressed against the wall, tears streaming down her face. You don't owe him anything, Lucas says. Then he leaves. That night, Calder packs one bag. No clothes. Just cash. Just documents. Just fear. He doesn't say goodbye. Doesn't leave a note. Doesn't look back. He drives until Denver is a memory. And Tess locks the door behind him. For the first time in years, she breathes without holding it. But Luca's work isn't finished yet. Morning comes soft. No shouting. No footsteps. No tension hanging in the air like smoke. Zariah wakes up and doesn't hold her breath. She gets dressed slowly. Picks the yellow dress this time. Ties her shoes. Walks to the kitchen. Tess is making pancakes. Not burnt. Not rushed. Just pancakes. She hums while she flips them. Zariah climbs onto a chair and watches. Did he leave? Zariah asks quietly. Tess's hand pauses, then continues. Yes, baby. He's gone. Forever. Tess turns, kneels down, takes Zariah's face in her hands. Forever. Zariah's eyes fill, not with sadness, with relief. And for the first time in months, she cries. Not the silent kind, the kind that shakes your whole body. The kind that lets go of everything you've been holding. Tess holds her, rocks her, whispers you're safe now over and over until Zariah believes it. Later that morning, Tess opens the flower shop. Luca is standing outside. Same black suit, same white gardenias in his hand. But this time, he doesn't leave right away. Tess steps outside. Her eyes are still red, but she's smiling. "Thank you," she whispers. Luca nods once. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." Silence settles between them. Comfortable, respectful. Then the shop door swings open. Zariah runs out, barefoot, holding a single white gardenia. She stops in front of Luca and holds it up. "For you." Luca kneels, takes it carefully. "You don't have to pay me anymore," he says gently. Zariah shakes her head. "It's not payment." "Then what is it?" "It's thank you for scaring my monsters." Something breaks open in Luca's chest. Something he thought died years ago. Something he didn't know he still had. He looks at the flower, then at Zariah, then at Tess. And for the first time in decades, Luca Vero feels something he never thought he'd feel again. Purpose. Not the kind that comes from power. The kind that comes from protecting people who can't protect themselves. He stands, holds the gardenia like it's made of light. "You're very brave," he tells Zariah. She smiles. "So are you." And Luca realizes something. He didn't scare her monsters because she paid him. He did it because she reminded him of the child he used to be, the one who never got saved. What would you do if you could go back and save the version of yourself that no one protected? Weeks pass. Luca comes to the flower shop more often now. Not every day, but often. He doesn't buy flowers anymore. He just stops by, checks in, asks how they're doing. Tess smiles more. Her hands don't shake. Her sleeves get shorter as summer gets hotter. Zariah draws pictures again. But this time, they're not of monsters. They're flowers, and people, in bright pink dresses. The neighborhood notices. Whispers travel. "Did you see him? The gentleman ghost?" He's protecting them. Why would he do that? Because some people fight for power, and some people fight for the ones who can't fight back. One afternoon, Luca kneels on the sidewalk again. Same spot, same position, but this time, Zariah is laughing. She's showing him a drawing she made. A stick figure version of him holding a flower. "That's you," she says proudly. "I look very serious," Lucas says. "That's because you are serious." "Am I?" "Yep, but it's okay. Serious people can be nice too." Lucas smiles. Just a little, but it's real. And Tess watches from the shop window, her heart full for the first time in years. Because sometimes, the scariest people aren't the ones who hurt you. They're the ones who make the hurting stop. Lucas stands, hands Zariah the drawing back. "Keep it," she says. "So you remember." "Remember what?" "That you're not scary. You're safe." And Luca tucks the drawing into his jacket pocket, right next to his heart. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't destroy someone's life. It's rebuild someone else's. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear that monsters can be stopped, that silence can be broken, that little girls in pink dresses deserve to feel safe. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss stories that inspire, stories that challenge, stories that remind us what it means to be human. Drop a comment below and tell us, what would you do if a child asked you for help? Your words could inspire someone else to take action. Because the scariest monsters aren't the ones under the bed. They're the ones we pretend not to see.